Well, I'd like to welcome you into the session. I appreciate you coming in, and I definitely appreciate that you're taking the first steps to begin this journey. So, I did want to talk about before we begin everything in the session is completely confidential. What that means is I'm not allowed to tell anyone about anything that happens in here or what you say. However, there are some exceptions to the rules. Those exceptions being you plan on hurting yourself, you plan on hurting others, you plan on or really any reports of elder abuse or any reports of child abuse. I also am a counseling student at Liberty University, so this is my internship, which means I do have a supervisor who also has access to the information that has been shared in the session. Do you have any questions about any of that?
No, I don't.
Awesome. So going forward, I would like to say that my specific style of counseling takes more of a behavioral approach, which pretty much just means that we have some experiences in the past which then influence our behaviors today. So I want to help you try and figure out how some of those behaviors influence your current behaviors. So I'd like to ask you what brings you in today.
I've been having a lot of stress at work due to been there for a while and now they're just changing things up
Yeah.
and it's just not comfortable, but it's not enough for me to leave the job.
Yeah, that sounds pretty stressful. All the sudden changes kind of sounded like out of nowhere.
Well, we lost people. So now
Mm.
they're pulling senior staff to fill in for the lack of employees, which thought with being a senior employee, I would have more of a choice of what I got to do and not do. And
Right.
they're just throwing me into the lion's den.
So it seems like you're struggling with the changes of your current senior role into doing more of the less senior roles.
Correct.
Well, tell me, has there been any progress in changing how this is happening at work? Is there any institutional changes, or is it simply just a hiring facet?
It's more of a hiring facet because we don't have the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we lost a couple people due to medical reasonings.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to go out on medical leave. So we have to fill the gap. And I'm used to my role being set forth and knowing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it to being thrown into somebody else's position,
Right.
which is all new to me.
Yeah, you kind of get used to your role in one way, and now suddenly you're being flipped to do an entirely separate role. This definitely sounds like a stress-inducing event.
True.
Tell me how you're mitigating the stress.
I look at it this way, it's hopefully temporary, and I am taking deep breaths and just rolling with it.
Yeah.
But then when the day's done, I'm just like exhausted.
Yeah, kind of tired from the work of, and then it's definitely stressful knowing it sounds like, from what you've been saying, that this has been going on for a little bit.
Yes.
Would you say there's an end in sight?
The end of the term is coming soon, and we do have a few people in the loop to be going through training to be filling those positions, but until they get certified, they can't do the position.
Right. So, from what it sounds like you're saying is this upheaval of your current role into another role from your job is causing you a lot of stress, especially since it's doing a job that either you're not aware of or used to doing or at least haven't done in a while.
I've done it before. It's not that it's new. It's taking me out of my normal cycle.
Right.
Which is just going along the day, but at the same token, it's not,
Yeah.
I'm used to my routine, put it that way.
Yeah.
And now I have to do things in a different routine because I'm dealing with more people than I'm used to on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm sure it's definitely difficult to change up your whole system, and especially if it's bringing you a lot of internal stress that you're telling me you're bringing home after work and then effectively dreading the next day. Aside from the self-care you mentioned earlier, do you have a support system, or rather tell me about your support system, whether that be family or friends or...
I have family and friends, and they just sit there and they go, well, you could always leave, but unfortunately I can't afford to.
Yeah, it's also the tricky aspect of might not always be the easiest solution, or at least...
The grass may not always be greener on the other side.
Right, right. How do you feel about the support you're being given from your family and friends? It sounds like it's simply they're looking at it in a black and gray manner, or black and white manner, when really it's a large gray space of I'm in a situation where I have to do a certain role that isn't my normal given role, which you're then internalizing the stress from, and then when you're trying to express the stress, it sounds like you're not really getting what you're looking for from your supports.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming in and taking the first big step of the session. I know it's always the most hard one, and it's commendable to take the first step because it's showing that you're interested in the big change, which is definitely awesome. So you mentioned that you have family as your support. So what about friends? Do you have any colleagues in a similar boat that are experiencing the same way where you could relate to them?
Well, I do, and they have the same grievances as I do.
Yeah.
The person that I speak with, she has 2 more years experience than I do, and she doesn't like being uprooted from her routine either. But she keeps telling me it's just temporary. We have less than a month of this,
right?
Which the people I deal with on a day-to-day basis in my normal routine are going, where are you? Why are you doing this? Why are they doing this? Don't you have seniority?
Yeah.
And, because it's taking me away from who I usually deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to know why. And it's part of the job.
Yeah. And could you tell me what this job is?
I'm a school bus driver.
School bus driver is very nice. And you work with children?
Yes.
That's great. It's definitely commendable to help the next generations come up. But you were saying earlier that you have other colleagues that you even said with more seniority than you that are also in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how you've been sharing your grievances with that person.
I just talk to her in the break room, or in passing when I see her not in her bus.
Yeah.
And she's like, I gotta go do this one. And, I did the one that you're doing, and the kids are like this, and take your earplugs.
Right.
So I'm used to dealing with less than 20 kids.
Right.
On my normal routine. Okay. So it's not as loud, it's not as upheaval, and I do have different ranges of ages, but with the run that they're having me cover and do whenever they're short-staffed, is up to 70 kids.
It definitely sounds tricky going from like you said, the smaller amount to definitely 70 is, I'd imagine, very big for a school bus.
Yes.
But I definitely understand how that can be stressful going from your typical workload to then effectively tripling it in one day. That's definitely...
I usually have that just with one run, and then now they have me doing 2 runs. One has 58 kids in it, and the other one has 70.
70 kids.
Yeah.
That's definitely a lot of kids. I can understand where all the stress is coming from. And I appreciate you coming in to talk about the stress, but unfortunately, as I'm looking at the time, it seems like we're just about out of it. So I do appreciate you coming in, and if you'd like, I'd be interested in meeting you again for another session. You can speak to the secretary outside, and we could schedule something up, and hopefully we can get you back in here sooner than later.
Sounds good to me.